Hey guys, welcome back to the studio. So I recently got a call from a very good customer of mine stating that they had seen a post of mine on social media about some new cups that I had put up on my Etsy site. They said that while they liked those, that they really wanted it in a different color. So this is the cup in question. So this is a beautiful stoneware cup with lots of layered glazes. It's got the beautiful nebula texture, all the little dots like the moon dots. And this is actually a fairly big cup. For me, it would be both hands. I can grip it with one, but it's not real comfortable. And this holds about, I believe, 14 ounces in this cup. So I think what we're going to do today, I'm going to take you over to the wheel. We're going to throw two of these cups for them, except we're going to make them a little bit narrower and a little bit taller. So let's go over there and I'll show you how it's done. All right, guys, so I got my two pieces of clay. These are about 1.2 ounces each. I do weigh everything out when I'm doing stuff like this. I've got them all wedged up and they're ready to go. And when I'm throwing, I use a bat system. So most of my pots, because I don't throw huge pots anymore, I will throw them on these unglazed tiles instead. It saves a lot of room because I've got such a small studio. I also only work in small series, usually 5 pots or less. So it does give me an advantage in the studio to be able to just push these in, pop these out. I have a whole stack of them. So I've got the bigger size and then I have the smaller size that I use. So if I'm doing cups, mugs, bowls, I can use these, or smaller vases, or I can use these. When I'm just working on an order like this, I'm just going to use the big ones. It's not a big deal. I only use the small ones when I basically am trying to get a whole bunch of stuff done and don't have any of the big ones left. So we're going to put some clay on here and we're going to get some centering done. Whoa, there goes the sponge. So at this point, all I'm trying to do is get the clay centered. If your clay isn't centered before you start doing your pulling your clay up, you're going to get different wall thicknesses. So I'm pushing in and pushing down to force the clay into a concentric center position. Now I'm going to, different potters do it different ways. I will sometimes just use one finger. I'll use a sponge. I'll use my finger and my thumb. I'm going to use my finger and my thumb and I'm going to make a well. So I'm going to make that well. I'm going to leave myself a lot of clay at the bottom of this because I'm going to flare it out. Both of these cups are going to be flared out. And I'm really compressing that clay at the bottom so I don't get a crack. You really need to compress that clay so you don't get a crack. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make the foot. I'm going to take my finger right here with the sponge and I'm just going to undercut the clay at the bottom. So I make this little ridge right here. And what that allows me to do, I'm going to do a little bit more compression here. Bring that bottom out just a little bit more. That's literally going to give me the bottom of the cup, and then I'm going to pull the wall from here. So I'm just going to push in, and I'm going to very carefully pull up. So I'm just doing I'm not putting a lot of pressure. I don't want to put a lot of pressure because you can, if you're not light to the touch with this, you can push right through the clay or you can pinch the clay off. Now I always leave my walls a little bit thicker on these cups because of that spiral texture I put in there. It's really easy to put a tool right through the side of it and then ruin your perfectly good cup. Thinning it out just a little bit more. And there we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that sponge, I'm going to keep that, I really want to round that edge off and compress that edge a little bit on the cup just to make it nice and smooth. So now this is where the fun begins. Let me see here. I have my rib, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually insert the corner of that rib right into there as I'm pulling up, and I'm actually going to move it in this motion here. It's going to give me that swirled motion. This can go horribly wrong or it can go horribly right. So let's see what we can do here. Okay, so there we go. We got all the texture in there. I'm not worried about all this. I can knock all that off once it dries a little. Now, as you can tell, this lip is not completely round anymore. It's got kind of a wobble to it, and that's because of that texture. So I'm just going to take and push that in a little bit. It's not going to be perfect because I've really put that texture into there. So we're done with this one. So one thing I do is, this is where the chuck hole is, so I leave everything on until it's leather hard, and then I'll cut it off before I trim it. So I put this mark so I know when I put this back in which way it came off the wheel. So there's one. Let's get our second one done. What I'm doing here is I'm coning this up a little bit just to make sure that the clay is homogenized. Some people will call it coning or wheel wedging. This is a deer pugged clay, so it shouldn't have any air in it. It doesn't really need to be wedged. It just kind of thoroughly wedged. It just needs to be mixed a little bit. Again, that well. And again, the way I work, my customers know that these cups are not going to be perfectly matching. I'm going to get them close, but kind of the part of being of the art potter is I'm not trying to do production wear here. I'm not trying to make every piece look exactly like every other piece. It's just not what I do anymore. There was a time when I did that, and there's something to be said for production potters because they work so very hard. But I'm more about just making those one-of-a-kind art pieces for customers that they're not going to see again. So, very unique. Now this one's a little wider than I want it to be, so I'm going to try to collar it in here a little bit. And when I do that, it's actually going to bring the height up a little bit. Make it a little bit narrower. Made it a little bit wider than it really needs to be. There we go. Put those nice swirls in there. And put this one down here, and you can see fairly close to one another, not perfect. This one's a little bit more constricted in the middle, and that's the swirl that you put in there. So there you go, guys. There's making a set of cups for a customer. We hope you enjoyed this. We will see you next time. Have a great day.